This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Well, welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are here in the mobile studio at the Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas. And we are continuing our series of talking to innovators, leaders who are doing really interesting work in a variety of different technologies in a variety of different areas. And today's guest, Nadia Giuliani from Next Industries. Thanks for taking the time to join us here in the studio.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your invitation.
So, interested in getting a little bit of your background and a little bit of the background that led up to the product that you've announced. So you're from Milan.
Yeah.
And so what's your background? Degreed in engineering or medical?
Me, personally, not.
Yeah.
Our company is composed of different people. So we have 4 engineers,
Okay.
technical engineers, and me as a marketing specialist.
Okay.
And in fact, my previous background was basically in exhibition organization.
Okay.
So I'm at home now.
Yeah. So you're used to a CES. Yeah, I don't know. This 180,000 people here in Las Vegas. It's a little big.
Yeah, a big show, but I'm used to shows of this size.
Yes.
So in my past experience, we had exhibitions not so big, but with lots of people and visitors coming. Previously in the printing sector,
Okay.
printing field.
Okay.
Then I changed totally the field, my activities, and I became part of this company, which is a startup, and it is located near Milan, and we have 5 years of life.
Really?
So we are young, and the idea, we were born because our engineers are skilled in vibration detection and motion capture. So our first product line was a series of gateways to be used in structural monitoring. So building monitoring, bridge monitoring, dams,
Really?
and so on.
So detecting like vibrations, like cars going over or earthquakes.
Roadways,
Yeah.
and so on. So this kind of equipment that keeps the situation under control. So it helps improving maintenance and reduce risks.
Yep.
Okay. So this is our current product line, and it's on the market since 4 years.
Okay.
Okay, so after that, as we are also a research and development company, we thought to bring our experience and our know-how in a totally different kind of product. So we thought about developing a product for everybody, a product that could allow people to make their project, their ideas of motion capture, gesture control, real. So something real into the world. And so we put our knowledge in a background algorithm and created the Tactigon Skin, which is a totally new line of product. It's a very small sensors, so this size, and it has sensors on board, so IMU unit, gyroscope, accelerometer, magnetometer, and so we can detect position of objects in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so this sensor is on the market since 1 year.
Okay.
And we sold more or less 2,000 units of this sensor. And second step was something new, something innovative and revolutionary, because we wanted to change the idea of a controller. So we didn't want something that you had to grip on your hand, but we wanted something that can leave your hands totally free to move in a very, very natural way and able to repeat your gestures and to do motion control. So we began the processing of innovation. We began studying a new form factor, and we created the Tactigon Skin, which is now in its final step, and that is presented now here at the exhibition.
So here's a question. My previous role, I was involved in shows all over the world, IBC and in Amsterdam and the Hanover Fair and all these. Why CES?
So CES is, in our opinion, the best exhibition in this field in order to introduce new technology and new innovative products. Actually speaking, it's not the first exhibition we participate in order to present our product. We have already talked about Tactigon 1 and Tactigon Skin in other exhibitions like the CeBIT. We exhibited in Milan. So we went worldwide talking about this product. But the final launch of the product, we decided to do it here.
And what's been the response?
The feedback we get from this product is positive. So people who come to our booth and try the gaming demo we have with Tactigon Skin really appreciate. They say that the form factor is absolutely innovative and that the product fits well on the hand, even if it's a prototype, because we do not have the product here in production yet, but we have the final prototype. In any case, we think people are satisfied about it.
Oh, excellent. So why? Because you had the sensor,
Yeah.
and now you're applying it to a product,
Yeah.
right? Why this product? Because you can apply the sensor to a whole wide range of opportunities. Why this?
Because we had in mind a specific target of people who like technology like we do. So we thought about the makers in particular. And if you want to realize a product that does motion control, gestures and so on, you had to buy a lot of shields. So you need gyroscope, you need accelerometer, you need magnetometer, you need many shields, and it's not so easy to put them all together and to create something which is also fashionable or good to see, good to wear, and a nice product. So we tried to do something which is a high potential object that can do very interesting things, but with a new form factor and also fashionable. This
Of
is
course, you can't have it not be fashionable from Milan.
Yeah, of course, of course. And so we placed all this in mind, and we realized and developed the Tactigon Skin. So this is basically the background of our product.
It was interesting. Well, it's interesting because a lot of innovators, when they have what I would call a core technology like a sensor, they struggle with trying to figure out where to apply it, because it could be applied to a variety of different solutions. You could do it for a gaming controller or motion control. You could use it for the elderly, for tracking falling senior citizen, all kinds of different things.
Yeah, we actually left the application of Tactigon Skill open on purpose. So we do not have a specific and vertical solution yet at the moment. We created in our headquarters some applications, so we can Tactigon Skin to glasses for virtual reality or augmented reality applications. We can connect it to smartphone or PC for gaming
Right.
applications, or software management. You can use it like a mouse.
Yep.
So at the moment, what we are looking for are also industrial partners that are able to help us developing a vertical solution.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Nadia at Next Industries and learn more about Tactigon Skin. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. So Nadia, we were talking about, the fact that you've now created this open platform where you've not locked yourself into any kind of a vertical solution, but you're looking for third parties to be able to come in and figure out kind of the unique ways to use it into whatever application they want. So what's the current status? You've got a demonstration here you talked about, which was, the gaming example, right?
Yeah.
So people could kind of get a hands on it and see what they think. What's the current status of the product today?
Yeah, the product is finished. We are in our final prototype, and we are now ready to start our campaign, for our crowdfunding campaign, because we are looking for funds in order to help us bringing the product finally on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So we are now deciding which platform we would like to present and to use to present and launch our product. Maybe Kickstarter, maybe Indiegogo, who knows?
Yeah, we were and Nadia and I were talking during the commercial break around the pros and cons of different crowdsourcing, crowdfunding programs, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And I was sharing the story. I'm a big fan of both. I believe in crowdfunding as a great way for companies to get validation that the idea is valuable, because people bet with their money. If they're willing to put their money down, then you've got something. But I've also have been somewhat disappointed with people in both platforms who do not appreciate how hard it is to bring a hardware product to market.
Yeah.
Right? I was responsible for 40 million laptops a year and 30 million desktops and umpteen number 100 million printers being manufactured and ready to go. It's hard. Software is easy in my mind. The hardware is particularly if you're going to make a product that's going to be turning into a volume offer. Hardware is it's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
So from the time so you're saying though that the prototype as the final product will look has already been done. So that means all industrial design is done, all the circuitry is done, the base software is done.
Yeah.
So the crowdsource risk is pretty low then. It's just really raising the funds in order to get secure, and the more the funds, the lower the cost then.
Yeah.
Because you get the volume support for it.
Yeah. This is in fact important to know that the product exists.
Right.
So we are not at the beginning of the story. We are quite at the end. So all the development was done.
Right.
And supported by our own force.
Correct.
Now we need the final push to go to the market. So if we say that we will be on the market in 8 months, we will do. So this is this is a key point that is important to know.
Right, because in the case of a lot of the crowdsourcing offerings, some people will try to go out before they've even done the design work. They haven't done any of the heavy lifting to get the product ready. You're different because your product's ready to go. It's working. The final design is done. You're showing it. You've got that in play. So now it's really you're funding for scale, not funding for development.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And therefore the risk on any of the platforms. How much are you looking? What's kind of the funding range you're looking to raise?
We are looking for 5,000 US.
5,000 US dollars?
Yeah. 5,000. Sorry, 500,000.
500,000. Right.
500,000.
That's
Sorry.
fine. That's fine. Yeah, I was gonna say 5,000. That'd be pretty easy to raise.
Yeah.
500,000.
500,000. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's typically going to be the dollar amount. Something a little bit less than that you're going to need for an ODM, an outsourced design manufacturer like a Compal or a Foxconn or somebody to take it to. Are you going to manufacture Taiwan, China, or are you going to try to do it locally?
Well, up to now the product has been produced locally.
Right.
But now we are looking for partners even abroad.
Yeah.
That can help us getting lower production costs.
Correct.
And so bring the product in an easier way on the market.
Yeah. It's in the case of a lot of people when you're trying to ramp up hardware production, they'll take it to a Foxconn or a Compal or one of the ODMs in Taiwan and Japan. And it's actually quite interesting because the guy that used to work for me at HP, who ran all of our ODM interface work, Luca, is from Milan.
Okay.
But he's lived in Taiwan for the last 20 years.
Okay.
There. But it's just kind of a weird correlation that just hit me that Luca, and he still lives there. Phenomenal. But finding good partners is key, and but looking for those right partners who've got the right experience also reduces the risk. But the fact that you're so far ahead on your design work, so you're not designing now, you're not using the funds for the design work, is critically important. And what's the length of time from the time you're kicking off your crowdfunding, assuming you raise your 500,000, from that time until first product ship? What do you think that is?
8 months.
8 months?
Yeah.
Okay, that's...
Yes, so now we want to find up these funds to go into production. Maybe we would need something more in the future for marketing and for all those activities that are connected with the product launch and the product new appearance on the market.
Well, it's interesting because some companies like Pebble Watch introduced every product through Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Even though they were well funded, they would do it at every product because it was their validation that this product that they had designed was actually going to be ready to go to market, and so therefore it was a kind of an interesting approach for market validation, which is one of those things that is important for any kind of market to make sure that what you've got the customers actually want.
Yeah.
Without committing a whole bunch of dollars and then not being quite sure that is someone going to buy this thing when it goes on. Do you have a plan on going retail with it then at some point and making it available in that context?
Maybe, yeah. So maybe Amazon or a marketplace like this could be a really good opportunity for us and to keep the product available for the majority of people, as we have in mind.
Great. And with that, we'll be right back after this quick break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to the show. So Nadia, we've been talking a lot about, last segment talking about Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and I wish you the best of luck at figuring out which one's the right one for your product.
Finger crossed.
Well, and it's a hard decision because they each have a slightly different community, and your product's not like an obvious fit in one or the other. There's no, at least I don't know if I could even give you any advice as to which one to use because your product's a little bit unique. You position it as motion control, that's one thing. If you position it as a game controller, that's a different position. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. So I'll be watching that.
Okay.
But one of the questions I wanted to ask is look, the company's been around for 4 years. you've got 1 year into R&D to build the skin product. So, as we know with any of these efforts, right? You think you've got it all figured out, then you start doing the hard work, and you run into all kinds of unknowns and surprises and those types of things. So, share with us some of that, what that experience has been for the team. From where they started. I mean, they've got to be thrilled now where it is today, and on this cusp of doing the crowdfunding. But what was that experience to the process? What are some of those anecdotal or stories of going through the whole process with them?
Okay, so I can say first of all that it's absolutely not an easy task to develop new products, especially when we deal with technology. So technology problems we have to face every day. So every day something happens, every day we have a technical problem, every day we need to find a new way to solve something.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the great job of my colleagues, of my technical colleagues that worked on the development of the Tactigon Skin. But actually speaking, the hardest problem we had to face with the development was that even if our company has other products, so other product line that were sold, that are on the market and go well, we had problems in finding money to get sustained during this long period of development. So the problem of cash flow at the end of the month was absolutely something to think of. In any case, we managed to be successful in this, and we experienced our 1 year of development. So who wants to develop new products has to keep in mind this aspect, because it needs time to develop, and you must survey during this time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we asked that same question to pretty much all the guests we ever have on the show, and a lot of it is perseverance, and a lot of it is pivoting. You think the product's going to go this way, but it goes this way. But one that we don't hear enough about, though, is the understanding of cash, money, and that it's the oxygen to an organization. You could have the world's greatest idea, the world's greatest innovation. You run out of cash, you die.
Yeah.
And you have to. How are you funded? Where does your funding source come from?
As I told you before, we have other product lines on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So we developed them. They are on the market. They go well. So they function properly. They are appreciated by the public. And so we can live thanks to these product lines.
So do you have any outside investors, or is it completely funded from the products?
We have an external property of the company who helps us in this. But up to now, we have no other...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that actually is one piece of advice that a lot of people are following these days, which is to not be reliant on outside investors, because therefore you're in better control of your own destiny.
Yeah, we thought in our mind that first of all, we must have a product that properly works. After that, we bring the product on the market. After that, we need investors to push and to become big. So this is what we have in mind at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, one is funding at the point where you need scale.
Yeah.
Is where you're going to need enough cash, because it'll eat up a lot of cash trying to grow the business.
Apart from cash, do you know which was another hard problem? Ergonomic form factor.
Oh, yeah?
This was a bigger problem than technological ones.
Is it because of the variety of hand shapes and sizes? And
Yeah, because not all hands are equal. So there are
yes.
big, small, fat, slim. So it was quite hard to find a solution that could fit the majority of people, of hands shapes. But in the end, we came to a solution.
Yeah, and so you've got the prototype. This is an industrial design version
Yeah.
of it, right? So you fit it over the palm then? Is it this
Other
way?
side?
This way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Yeah.
How
and then you got your controller buttons on the bottom.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it recognizes gesture of the hand, but also it has 4 keys
Right.
here on the back that corresponds to your finger. So you can program these keys and decide, according to the application, the commands you want to add.
Mm-hmm.
You can wear right hand or left hand to add commands. And so you can go through different applications from gaming to high industrial applications like robotic control, for instance.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see where the ergonomics could be an issue because even for me, this one would feel a little snug
Uh-huh.
than maybe your later designs, and trying to do something that it's like gloves. How do they have different size gloves
Yeah,
because for a reason.
we will have the 3 sizes, in
Okay.
fact. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will have.
But it is an interesting. It is because it's not obtrusive in the form of how it fits on your hand. You can still
Yeah, you
grip
can
and
still keep
you can
something
still
in your mind.
type
Yeah.
with it on. That's interesting.
Exactly. In fact, our idea was to completely revolutionize the controller. So we didn't want something that you had to grip, but something that leaves your hand and your fingers free. And so this is what we thought about.
Great. If people want to keep up with what you're doing, what's the best place for them to keep track of you? Your website, social
Yeah,
media?
of course. We are social, so we have a Twitter page, the Tactigon. We have a Facebook page, the Tactigon.
Right.
And we have our website, thetactigon.com or /landing specific on the Tactigon Skin.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have all those links in the show notes at Killer Innovation. So if you're driving your car, you do not need to screech for that piece of paper. Do not get into an accident. Just check it out over at killerinnovations.com. We'll have all the links. And if it sounds something that's interesting for you, you can keep track there. See when they get ready to launch up on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. We'll see where they go. And so, Nadia, appreciate you taking the time joining us here in the mobile studio at CES.
Thanks. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this commercial break with a new episode of 5 Minutes to New Ideas. This is where we give you that question that hopefully will spur you to think about your next opportunities differently, or possibly even the problems or challenges you're facing today in taking your idea and making it a real innovation. Also, don't forget, hop on over to theinnovators.community. That's where I hang out every day. That's where we continue the conversations that occur here in the show. That's a very vapid, growing community. It's free, so you can join. Just go on over and hop on, sign up, and you can direct message me or any of the team. I'd love to hear from you, and that's where we share ideas, share tools, share experiences and expertise, and where it's actually more of a peer-to-peer mentoring around creativity and innovation. So theinnovators.community. With that, we're going to take this quick commercial break. We will be right back after this. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Back in the early days of this show, I would share what I called a killer question in each episode. These questions were designed to be used in your personal, team, or organization's innovation efforts. Now, based on feedback from listeners just like you, we've decided to bring it back with some improvements. Each episode of the Killer Innovations has a segment that I'm now calling 5 Minutes to New Ideas. It's designed for the creative mind looking for that next great idea. Each episode will challenge you to think differently about yourself, your business, and your products and services by asking unique, funny, and sometimes crazy questions. These questions are designed to force you to look beyond the obvious and to uncover ideas and opportunities you never before considered. So, get out your notebook and be ready to uncover that game-changing idea. Here is 5 Minutes to New Ideas. The inspiration for innovation takes all forms. For some, it's music, for others, it's art, and for others, it's data. When I was CTO, Mark Hurd, the CEO at HP at the time, had a quote that was ingrained in everything the executive team did. Quote, "If you stare at the numbers long enough, they will eventually confess." End quote. The expectation was that as an executive, you knew your numbers. It was not unusual to have Mark stop me in the hall and ask me about my R&D investment levels last quarter for the top 3 competitors, or what the customer net promoter score was for our top 5 products, or the reverse supply chain levels from retail returns. While Mark's focus on the numbers was well-meaning, I always felt that it caused blind spots when it comes to understanding the shift, changes, and the unspoken needs and wants from our customers. It looked at numbers as single elements to be managed individually. It also had the built-in assumption that the numbers were fact and that they never misled. Years later, I came across this story that caused me to reflect back on these times at HP. During World War II, the Navy tried to determine where they needed to armor their aircraft to ensure they and their crew came back home. They started tracking each and every bullet hole from each plane in the Navy. With this data, they ran an analysis to see if there were any trends of where planes had been shot up. Based on the analysis, the conclusion was that they needed to increase the armor on the wingtips, on the top of the central body of the plane, and around the elevators. That's where the data told them that their planes were getting shot up. Abraham Wald, a statistician, disagreed. He thought they should put armor on the nose area, around the engines, and the underside of the fuselage. Everyone immediately thought his proposal was crazy. That's not where the planes were getting shot. Except Mr. Wald knew what the others didn't. What the Navy thought it had done was analyze where aircraft were suffering the most damage. What they had actually done was analyze where aircraft could suffer the most damage and still make it back. What about the places where the planes in their analysis were not shot? Put simply, planes that had been shot there crashed. They weren't looking at the whole sample set. They only looked at planes and crews that survived. Now, the data didn't lie. The planes did get shot in the locations identified during the analysis. The data, however, did mislead. It was only part of the entire data set that should have been looked at. Now, while data can be incredibly helpful when developing ideas that will become future innovations, we need to apply human insight and skepticism. And throwing in your gut feel may also be a good idea. If something seems incredibly obvious, that begs the question as to why and what is missing. Rarely are things that cut and dry, that obvious. Go beyond the obvious and use your curiosity to ask that next question so that you can dig deeper and uncover some insight that others are not seeing. Be careful of assumptions. Be careful of using past experiences or even what we think we see and then filling in the missing data. So what happened with Mark Hurd's approach at HP? With the emphasis on your numbers being compared to your competitors, it became clear that if your numbers were not better than theirs, then you weren't running your part of the business appropriately. The result was some bad business decisions, such as cutting HP's R&D spend to match the R&D spend of our Asia-Pacific-based competitors. I always found it interesting that the focus was always on cutting. Why wasn't the decision made to increase R&D spend to match that of Apple? Now, that is a story for another time. While I pushed back hard on this approach and specifically what was being done to R&D spend, my one regret was not pushing back even harder or finding a way to convince Mark and the others of the folly of that approach. I didn't find a way to play the Abraham Wald role at HP. One key lesson that I did learn from this experience was that the context of the information you are using to make innovation decisions is just as important as the data. How could you challenge yourself and your team to take the same approach Abraham Wald did on aircraft analysis? How can you go beyond the obvious and uncover an insight that is not obvious? I'm Phil McKinney, and thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join in. If you have any comments or suggestions, drop me a note at phil@killerinnovations.com. Beyond this show, I write about my personal experiences of being in the innovation game for the last 2 decades. Topics include innovation, creativity, culture, team building, metrics, frustrations, leadership, and how to win. You can find that content over at philmckinney.com. You can also find out information about my book, Beyond the Obvious, including extensive excerpts over at beyondtheobvious.com. You can find hardcover, digital, and audio versions of my book on Amazon or wherever you get your books from. Now, the reason I started this show back in 2005 was to pay back my early mentor. My first mentor, Bob Davis, invested an immense amount of time in training and coaching me, which had a major impact on my career. When I went back and asked him how I could pay him back, he laughed and said I couldn't. I had to pay it forward. If I could ask for a favor, could you help me pay it forward? How? 1, by giving us a rating wherever you get your podcast, as that helps spread the word. And 2, by telling others about the show. This episode of Killer Innovations was produced by the Innovators Network. You can find the show notes and the entire show catalog going back to 2005 at killerinnovations.com. I'll talk to you next week, and in the meantime, go out and change the world with your killer innovation. Bye-bye.